Hi, I thought I'd try an HD video for a change. I don't know, having trouble getting the colors just right, but it looks soft lavender back there, and that's right. So, okay, this is a bit odd because it's sunset, and even though it's a little bit cloudy out there, that doesn't stop me from sun gazing. Um, the sun shines. I don't care if it's midnight, the sun is shining. And we can connect with that in the heart. It's just a matter of will and intent. And so it's certainly easy when you know the sun is just on the other side of a cloud to make that connection. But here's what I want to share. And it seemed like, well, it seemed like the sun sent me in here to share it. It's pretty strange. Um, I've been sun gazing for a while, probably in the neighborhood of a year or more, maybe 18 months, something like that. Not steadily, but a lot. And I tell people, well, just Google it, check it out, you know. Well, I Googled it the other day, and I was frankly stunned at what I found. It really took me aback. And so I'm not sure I'm ready to say Google it anymore, or Google it, but be in your heart when you do. I learned of a man who came from Asia, I forget where, whether it was India or what, who's a Jain, I guess that's how you say that, Jain. I believe it's a religious persuasion or a philosophical one. I don't really know anything about it. I've just seen the word before. And apparently, in the last century, he came over and he taught a practice of sun gazing. And he made some pretty outrageous claims for it. And he laid out a practice whereby you increased the time that you gazed, only sunrise and sunset, not, when the sun is up high. And you increase it a little bit each day, and based on his instruction, within a year, you're finished. You get up to being able to gaze 44 minutes straight at the sun, and at that time, he says, you're complete, and you never have to gaze at the sun again. And I'm still stunned, okay? If I read it right, it seemed to be saying you wouldn't have to eat anymore. It was supposed to heal all kinds of things. And so I just, it bothered me. And so I put it in my heart. And my first thought was, oh my God, they're treating the sun like an object, when to me it's so alive and it's a real relationship and things. But putting stuff in your heart is really good, because I was reminded that when I first began, I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't have any claims like that I was working on. I just was called to it. I'd heard it in the various sacred traditions. There is the practice of morning prayers and evening prayers. It's just always been done. It's kind of like a sunrise and a sunset thing. And it just seemed a good sacred practice that I thought that I would try. And I remembered that, in a way, the sun was an object for me too when I started. Not completely, but I can relate to it being very different at the first than it is now. And so I just wanted to, I don't know, share my concerns about that. I think as long as we center in the heart, I mean, you take who and what you are to whatever it is you do. So the mind can get all kinds of ideas about things and all kinds of concepts, and it can think it knows why it's doing a thing, but that's worthless. You know, it's about as reliable to hold your water as a colander. Um, but if we center in heart, things just work out. You know, the right things happen. We get the right understandings. We wind up doing the right things. For instance, this was the first time I ever went to Sungaze, and I was very clearly instructed, go now. And so I said, okay. And I left. I mean, the sun is still setting. This is weird. But as I came into my room here, my little dog sleeps in his crate at night, and I've got blankets there for him, which he likes to pull out and make a mess of the room with. But anyway, as I was walking into the room, there was a centipede crawling on one of his blankets. And it was just right obvious and in plain sight, and so I was able to see it and escort it outside. And I just knew, well, that was part of the timing. I needed to see that. Those things, I don't know whether they sting or they bite or what it is, but I know that when my grandfather would see a centipede or a millipede, he would get the hoe out and he would really go after it. I mean, he didn't want them around. So I guess they have a danger that they can deliver, whatever that is. I just asked him not to bite me or the dog and put him outside, so we'll see. The one thing I don't do that with is ticks, I have to admit. I flush them. I hope that I have a septic system, you know, and so it goes into the earth. And I wish them well, and I hope they can survive the transit, but we're swimming in ticks, and they're not so pleasant, little blood-sucking things. You know, I don't kill them. I used to do that. I don't do that anymore. You know, crush them between your fingernails. And I did it without thinking. But, you know, how many incarnations have you lived so far in this one? I know I've lived at least 10. At a minimum. Probably more. And it's getting more and more intense. So back to the sun gazing thing. You will, if you're open to it, if you desire it, you will develop a real relationship with the sun. Now, I can't tell you what the sun is. I don't know. I read somewhere, now I don't know what your belief in UFOs and other life forms that exist either on other planets or other dimensions is, but I have no problems whatsoever with believing that, so that's where I'm coming from. The SETI and the government, well, the government is just a mess, okay? They just are, they are compromised. They've painted themselves into a terrible place. And so you know how it is when you lie, then you have to have other lies to hide the lies, to hide the lies, and so on. And so they say that they want to communicate with ETs, but then when the ETs communicate, they don't share it. So that's why it's been kind of fascinating that some of the very interesting crop circles have appeared right by these sending and receiving mechanisms for SETI that SETI uses. I'm trying to remember where I heard it, but there are beings that live in other dimensions. You know that. There are other dimensions right here congruent with Earth that are populated. You don't have to go to the inner Earth, you know, to find other beings. There's life everywhere, okay? Everything is teeming with life. And I wouldn't be surprised to find some kind of civilization of beings that live on the sun, or in it, or congruent with it, whatever it is. And somebody called them the radiant ones. And I thought that was interesting, Ra being one of the names for the sun. And indicated that they had definitely made communication, I guess radio contact, with the Earth but that whatever they had to say wasn't being shared. You can't prove things like this. I mean, the government keeps or destroys or falsifies all the information, so it can't be proven. But you know what? It gets down to what can you trust? That is your heart. And so you run things by your heart, and pretty soon you develop enough ability and enough intuition, and you can just go on that. It's a whole heck of a lot better than going on anything that the government says. All right, so where am I going with this? Okay, I was just saying I don't know what the sun is. There's a lot of, it's a star. There are a lot of stars out there. I think it's entirely possible. Now, it's a being. Everything's a being, okay? Gaia is a real being. There's a real consciousness. I don't know if it's like no, it's not a collective. There's a being that incarnates the earth. And I have no doubt, a being or beings that incarnate the sun. I think when your love light gets to such an intensity, it's explosive, it's radiant, and it doesn't bother me, the concept that what we're looking at when we look in the sky there is an intensity of a manifestation of divinity, of radiance, of love, of such illumination that it can manifest that way. I don't have a problem with that. So, but I have to say, I don't really know what we're contacting when we're sun gazing. It's pretty funny, isn't it? I don't know is my answer to most anything and everything. But somehow there's a confidence in my heart, and I don't understand that either. I couldn't tell you what a heart is. I can tell you that's the spot, but you haven't seen me define heart, now have you? Well, don't plan to, okay? Because I can't quite say what it is. It's not the physical organ. But anyway, so with your sun gazing, I just want to say, I hope that you'll do it heart-centered, and that you'll move quicker than I did from looking upon the sun as an object that's out there somehow. And when you make like an arc, if I want to make contact with a being, I will often envision an arc, just a line from my heart that spans a half circle, let's say, from not a straight line, but like an arc to that one's heart or that one's being. And it's a link up somehow. Maybe there's better ways. I don't know. I just share what works for me. I hope lots and lots of us are going to start doing what I'm doing here and just turning on the camera and talking. Thank you guys for encouraging me to do that. I can type too, and I still do that, and I can write. I've got loads and loads, hundreds, thousands of handwritten journals. But it's also nice to be able to do it this way. All right, now have I run through what has value for you here? Maybe so. I've just been so, and it's funny because maybe it was the mind that was stunned by sun gazing in order to get healing, in order to have physical manifestations, and in order to not need to eat physical sustenance anymore. It just blew me away. It really did. To so objectify a manifestation of divinity like that, and to use it kind of like it's a method. That's what it is. That's what's bugging me. Okay. I don't know where you are in your hi. I thought I'd try an HD video for a change. I don't know. Having trouble getting the colors just right. But looks soft lavender back there, and that's right. So, okay, this is a bit odd because it's sunset. And even though it's a little bit cloudy out there, that doesn't stop me from sun gazing. The sun shines. I don't care if it's midnight, the sun is shining. And we can connect with that in the heart. It's just a matter of will and intent. And so it's certainly easy when you know the sun is just on the other side of a cloud to make that connection. But here's what I want to share, and it seemed like, well, it seemed like the sun sent me in here to share it. It's pretty strange. I've been sun gazing for a while, probably in the neighborhood of a year or more, maybe 18 months, something like that. Not steadily, but a lot. And I tell people, well, just Google it, check it out, you know. Well, I Googled it the other day, and I believe it's a religious persuasion or a philosophical one. I don't really know anything about it. I've just seen the word before. And apparently, in the last century, he came over and he taught a practice of sun gazing. And he made some pretty outrageous claims for it. And he laid out a practice. Frankly, stunned at what I found. It really took me aback. And so I'm not sure I'm ready to say Google it anymore, or Google it, but be in your heart when you do. I learned of a man who came from Asia, I forget where, whether it was India or what, who's a Jain, I guess that's how you say that, Jain,